It's a Sunday afternoon as I record this video, just 15 miles from my home. The government is trying to finalize a $1 trillion stimulus package to try to offset the economic toll that the coronavirus has taken on our country. And what I wanted to do in this video was provide some information on some programs that may be available to you or those that you know to help sort of offset the economic impact that I think we're all experiencing. As I think most of you know, I'm a deputy editor at Forbes. I manage a personal finance section of the site called Advisor. I have just an incredibly talented team of writers and editors, and they have been hard at work putting together content on financial relief, aid, help, both from the government and also from the private sector. And there's really, it's growing by the day. This is certainly a developing story. So, there could be new things even as, tomorrow. And I will be continuing to provide that to you in subsequent videos. But what I wanted to do in this video is give you sort of a highlight of the types of programs that are available if you need them. And again, I think some people have been impacted more than others. Perhaps you haven't had a significant economic impact yet, but you might. We hope not, but you might. And this information could be helpful. Or it just could be folks that you know, friends and family who have lost their jobs or are having trouble paying the mortgage or their car loan, or maybe they're having to take off work because their kids aren't in school now. And so there are programs for all of these situations. So again, I'm going to walk through them very quickly in this video. What I'm going to do is put links to everything in the discussion below the video, so you'll have those. Even going to talk about some student loan, federal student loan relief that's available, and why you might want to think twice before refinancing a federal student loan. We'll get to that. I'm also going to mention a Google spreadsheet that a fellow blogger has put together with a lot of resources. I'll mention that at the end of the video. Just a great amount of research went into that, and I think it could be helpful to you as well. So again, let's get to it. Things are going to change, but this is the state of things as I know them, based on a team of great editors and writers at Forbes that have just pulled together a wealth of information. Again, links to everything in the discussions below the video. And I'll just say this too. If you know of other resources that I don't include below this video, please leave them in a comment. We need to work together on this to get as much information as we can to everybody, because this has been a difficult time and it's not over, and we've got weeks and months ahead of us. So I'm optimistic, but we've got a battle ahead of us. So let's get started. The first thing I want to mention is sick leave. So the federal government has a program where small and medium-sized businesses can effectively provide 10 days worth of sick leave. It's limited to $511 per day benefit. So $5,510 over the 10-day period. This can be, of course, if you have the coronavirus, or if you're being quarantined where you live, you can't get to work. It can even help if you're staying home from work because your children are out of school, which is certainly the case where we live. Our schools have closed for the remainder of the school year here in Northern Virginia. So a potential benefit that could help a lot of people. And so again, I'll leave links to it, that information in the discussion below. But that was the first one I wanted to mention. The second one, so maybe you have travel plans. I think for most folks, we're kind of done traveling, I think, for a while. But you may have trips planned in the future, or maybe you've planned one months ago and it's 3 weeks from now and you're not sure what to do. So a ton of information is available, both for canceling flights and canceling hotels. What we found is generally change fees have generally been waived across the board, both for airlines and if you want to change a hotel reservation. With the airlines, if your flight has been canceled, this is true in the US, it's true in Europe, you're going to get a refund. I mean, that's generally across the board. You're going to get a refund. But here's the other thing. If that's not the case, your ability to change the flight or even cancel it and get a refund can vary depending on the destination and the timing of your travel. Now, we were in Arizona, my son and I, when all of this sort of became a very fast-moving and changing issue here in the U.S. and spring training got canceled. That's why we were in Arizona. We flew on American Airlines. They changed our flight, no cost. There was no increase in the airfare so we could get home early. So our experience was very positive. But you'll find links, again, below this video of an exhaustive list of the airlines and the hotels with links to their coronavirus policies for cancellations and refunds. Okay. The other thing is that with loyalty reward programs, a lot of them are doing, if there are miles or points that are about to expire, they're extending the expiration date. They're also doing the same thing if, say, you've got a credit card and you got some free hotel award nights, and those certificates are going to expire. What we've seen are most of the hotels and their loyalty programs are extending that expiration date so that folks can use those free nights later in the year, perhaps even into 2021. Now, mortgage relief. So what we've seen on the mortgage front, a couple of things. First of all, with FHA loans and loans owned by Freddie and Fannie, and we've also seen this at the state level, they're suspending evictions and foreclosures. At the moment, it's for 60 days. I suspect it could be extended longer than that, but right now it's for 60 days. The other thing is that forbearance on payments is in many cases available for up to 12 months. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean your interest won't accrue, but forbearance on payments for up to 12 months through Fannie and Freddie. To get details on that, I would recommend you start with contacting the mortgage servicer for your loan. Also keep in mind state programs are available, so you'll want to check, of course, depending on where you live, with your state and local governments for any programs that they may have. Now, one example of a private lender, Ally Bank, which offers mortgages, and I just use Ally as an example. They have a program where you could defer payments for up to 120 days. Now, again, interest would still accrue, but the program would allow you to defer payments for up to 120 days. It would not hurt your credit, which is an important point. But again, interest would accrue during that time, but it could be helpful to those folks who are struggling to make their mortgage payments. All right, small businesses. Now, this is still very much a developing story, but what we've seen right now is from the Small Business Administration. They are offering loans of up to $2 million, terms of up to 30 years. They're not interest-free, but they're low rates. I think 3.75 for small businesses, and I believe it's 2.75 for nonprofits. So if you are a small business and you're in need of capital, the SBA may be an option. Again, I'll have links to all of this in the discussion below. Now, taxes. You've probably heard, but in case you haven't, the IRS has extended the April 15th deadline. April 15th is not tax day for us in the U.S. in the year 2020. They've extended it to July 15th. They've also extended the April 15th estimated tax payments that are normally due on that date if you pay estimated taxes. That's been extended to July 15th as well. Now, the IRS, believe it or not, has some great resources on all of this. I'll link to it below. They include a link to a website that lists for all of the states that have income tax. Of course, not every state does, but for all the states that do, links to their websites, because what the states do, of course, could vary. They don't have to follow the IRS rules. And so you'll want to make sure you understand what, if anything, your state is doing with regard to deadlines and extensions of payments. So I will include a link to that website, which again links to, I think it's 42 states, but I may have that number wrong, but the 40 some odd states that have a state income tax, links to each of those websites so you can see what, if anything, your state is doing to help during this time. All right. The next thing, and again, I know I'm running through this quickly. You'll have links below, but I kind of want to there's a lot to cover and I want to get through it as quickly as I can. Insurance, homeowners and auto insurance. A number of the major insurance companies are offering different programs, including, for example, allowing you to defer payment of your premiums. So I've got a link below of an article that lays out for all the major insurance companies what relief they're providing. Now, the banks have stepped up in a number of ways. As I mentioned a minute ago, Ally with their mortgage program, they're doing something similar with auto loans, but also with banking. We're seeing that many of the banks are waiving fees. Now, of course, they're waiving things like monthly maintenance fees and even fees that you might encounter, for example, if you overdraw your account. But the other thing we're seeing is many of the banks are waiving the early withdrawal penalty on certificates of deposit. Of course, that could become very helpful for folks that need to tap that money as they, perhaps lose work and need access to those funds. So if your emergency fund or other money is in a certificate of deposit, you may be able to take that out early without paying the early withdrawal penalty. Obviously, you'll want to check the terms with your specific bank, but I'll put a link to an article in the notes below that lists at least a lot of the nationwide larger banks and what they're doing in this regard. Now, student loan relief, as you may have heard, they basically dropped the interest rate on federal loans to 0. Now, they at that point hadn't suspended payments, but the idea was that 100% of your payment would go to your balance. But of course, a lot of folks now, particularly as more and more people lose work, are going to struggle to make those payments. So they're allowing you to defer or forbear those student loan payments. And you couple that with 0% interest, at least for now, and you won't have interest accruing. Now, again, links below. There's a lot of details there, but one thing I mentioned at the top of the video is you want to think twice about refinancing a federal student loan into a private student loan. Now, often that can be a good thing to do because you can lower your interest rate. The downside is you lose access to all of the federal repayment plans and the 0% interest that the federal government is offering, at least for now, as well as the ability to defer or forbear payments. So before you consider refinancing a federal loan into a private student loan, you got to make sure that you shouldn't take advantage of these programs available at the federal level. Only once you've concluded you'll never take advantage of those would you want to consider refinancing to a private student loan. Again, links to all of this in the notes below, including links to studentaid.gov as well as ed.gov, which have some excellent resources for those folks with student loans. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention in this quick video is a Google spreadsheet. In fact, let me pull it up on my screen if I can. Okay, this was put together by a blogger friend of mine, Aaron Lowry of Broke Millennial, and it's just a wealth of information. Again, I'll leave a link to this below the video, but it includes links to information on financial relief, food, job leads, which is a particularly difficult issue because it's one thing to lose your job, but now it's hard to find one because everyone's locked down and not going anywhere. So, but there are still job opportunities out there, and she links to a lot of those resources. Shelter, she's got mental health resources here, charitable giving. The list goes on. She's got fitness links, believe it or not, which can be helpful. Education for both children and adults. So just a wonderful resource that she's put together. Again, I'll link to that below the video. So listen, this is a difficult time. There's no point in sugarcoating this, but I am very optimistic for our future, both health-wise, as difficult as it is right now. But maybe I'm just an eternal optimist. But I also believe that while I hope for the best, we got to prepare for the worst. So I hope these resources are helpful to you. Again, it's a developing story. There are going to be new resources as early as tomorrow. I'll be doing future videos, so if this is helpful for you, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be producing more videos as information develops. And again, share this information with friends and family. If you don't need this now, I know others do, and we're gonna need it in the days and weeks to come. So be safe And again, if you have resources as well, please leave them in comments below the video so we can all benefit and get the help that we need.